Good morning, everyone. Oh, this is way too close for a comfort. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. It's Wednesday, world's greatest ad, number one, right here with Reckless Coffee, mind you. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Number two is not here today, but we have the number one Gravenberg fan and number one Niners curse. Unfortunately, John over here. What's happening?
The less said about that Niners, Chris, the better. I'm good. I hope everyone's doing well. Wednesday, hump day, two-man crew today, and we're probably going to get through it because we've got our morning reckless coffee.
Yes, I did get the sample package, and it's like the one I got is the Guatemala one. And yes, it's like a little bit of mocha and stuff. So I'm not saying because he's a sponsor. You definitely want to check that out. Head on to the
Absolutely.
website. I'll throw the link right here. I really feel like if you try one, because that's where I'm at now. Like having tried one of them, I'm like, now I'm intrigued about this one, this one, this one. Sometimes when you read flavors on coffee, I'm kind of like a coffee snob. Sometimes when you read flavors on coffee, it sounds good. You're like, ooh, that sounds good. Then you tried, you're like, not so much. Either the combination doesn't work or the tastes are fake and stuff like that. But not this one. So I definitely do recommend it. Head on over there and try some coffee. Tell them American Scouser sent you because you don't have any quotas or anything like that. So, but put that in the comments. Say American Scouser sent you. So, lot to get to this morning, actually. Some interesting stuff. People are gathering around Ryan, Alan, Sir Z. Head on to Reckless Coffee Roasters. And most importantly, the daily homework of grabbing somebody by the ears and dragging them onto American Scouser TV to subscribe. Because our ultimate goal is to be able to do the morning shows to a larger audience than what Hendo and Gerrard are playing to. So that's what we're shooting for over here. So seeing that, doesn't that make it so they played, if you missed this, they did play to a whopping 696 fans
Let's
uh
go.
the other day. I played in larger crowds. I'm proud to say, in when I was in high school, mind you, it was like a trip, but I played it was a tournament, but I have personally played to larger crowds than that. So that's pretty pathetic that they ended up playing to 696 people. You think when they go out there, are they saying, damn it, man, this was a mistake? Or Cersei says more fans than City, so that's fair. But are they saying like, damn it, this was a mistake? Or they're like, I can't wait to get home and count my generational wealth?
Yeah, well, I say to Hendo, I certainly hope that the generational wealth is freaking worth it, man. Because imagine this: like you could be playing in front of a packed Anfield, in front of one of the best managers in the world, with some of the best players in the world. But hey, I guess money talks, right? So it's frankly embarrassing, but there's definitely something. This is something that's worth putting a case study on, honestly, because I remember hearing what you and Matush talked about this around a few shows ago. Is it because there is just a general lack of interest, or maybe do fans want their own players in the domestic league to be sort of propped up rather than these foreigners? There's a lot of questions regarding it because you would think, oh, Firmino, Henderson, all these names, they're going to attract some people, but 696? It's just a question that's why. It's a big why, isn't it?
But I mean, we talked about this before, right? That's why I thought personally we were kind of safe from losing Hendo because nobody in Saudi Arabia is saying, I can't wait to go in and watch Hendo and Genie play, who Liverpool fans uh, considered boring as a midfield. And they had, obviously the fantastic tree in front of them, and it was like an industrious midfield, and they did great. But see, this is a good point right here, and I'm not sure about that. So he says this is great if it means we keep Salah or they pay 300 million to entice more fans. Do you think somebody like Mo even looks at that and says, ugh, do I want to go to this? Or generational wealth is generational wealth. And let's face it, more people would go out to see Mo than they do go out to see Hendo and Gene.
Yeah, that probably, but then it won't be as much as, let's say, a packed Anfield. That's for sure. I'll put money on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. Like Salah seems like a player where he doesn't really resonate with the Liverpool fans in terms of like a cultural and a personal level, but I think he loves them in terms of the support that they bring and in terms of the love that they've reciprocated towards him. So if he sees this, I think it's a big red flag because like that league's no slouch. Like I saw Ronaldo, ESPN posting as usual a Ronaldo highlight for like a meaningless game, right? And it wasn't as packed, right? It wasn't as packed, and that's Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not saying that Salah possibly won't be a bigger draw, but you've already got Ronaldo, you already got Neymar, right? And you're still not filling up the stadium. Maybe Salah might be that guy to take them over the hump. But if you're Salah, would you rather a packed Anfield on a Champions League night over you'd have this?
I don't think they're even comparing that. Or
Right,
I mean,
right.
they're comparing that with a multiplier. Like, like Hendo is comparing that. I mean, hey, look, Hendo maybe was not going to be starting anyway. Which I would still argue that Hendo would probably be the 6 right now if Hendo was still here.
right.
As much as Klopp loves him. So I think it comes to the multiplier, right? Do you do that or do you do this along with, like, as you lean on like a freaking like a pallet of money that was just like paid to you and like you're just like standing there. So I think that comes with a multiplier. I don't think they're ever comparing that. I think what you're comparing is, as a player, do I want that? Like, am I done with this? Now let's go get that.
The thing with Salah is, Tim, I don't know. Like he's made a ton of money already. To be fair, we've talked about this. We've talked about this with Henderson. We've talked about this. I just think Salah's mentality in terms of wanting to push us to greater heights. Like, for example, he manages to get us, let's say, the Europa League this year. We get back into the Champions League. Is it job done, really, for Salah? He's got that mentality where he wants to fire us to the biggest honors, to the Champions League, to the Premier Leagues. Now, this might just be me speaking hopefully, right? Because I want him to stay. But I really think that, I believe I've mentioned this before, I think he's got that dog in him where he wants to still be competing with the best possible opposition, with the best possible teammates. Maybe, right? But then you could understand, like I would understand as well, if he feels like I've done all I can for Liverpool. I've gotten them back to the levels where they should be, which is Champions League football, competing with the biggest honors. And I deserve the biggest payday of my life, which is going there. And I won't blame him for that. But if you're going to ask me to choose between which scenario I think would be most possible, like I said, Henderson hasn't sucked up all the hope yet. There is that little bit of naivety still. Maybe Salah might stay and try and fire Liverpool maybe to one more Premier League title before he calls it quits.
It's so great to see young people with hope, It's good to see. It's like a little kid still wishing stuff for Christmas. But yeah, I'm here to tell you that basically it's going to happen. I think it's a matter of like when. And I guess the concern, if you are Liverpool, is how long is this thing going to be like in fashion, if you will, sending and selling players over there? Like Alan says, the Saudis are virtually guaranteed to get the World Cup in 2030. I mean, we went to Qatar for a World Cup, so yeah. I don't think that it gets. And let's face it, I mean, here's the thing: we can't really knock them getting the World Cup when we compare it to number of fans, because there's going to be a World Cup here in the U.S. And yes, I know it's not 700 people, but it's not really like glorified numbers when it comes to attendance. When you have to close half the Soldier Field when the Fire are playing because it looks really awkward, I think it's like a definitely different thing. The deal is, how long, if you're looking at it from the Liverpool perspective, while it might be tempting to maybe sign him to an extension so that, when you do sell him, you still get the money, how long is that money going to be there? I really thought they would, do a lot better with it, with bringing these players in. This was just the first wave, it felt like. But two, I was thinking it would take him longer to get what they want. right? And now they're like getting the World Cup. Before you know it, if next, like in 6 months, they're like, maybe we'll take a team to the Champions League or something stupid like that. I mean, then they're gonna be like mission accomplished. So, Mitchell says most other Major League Soccer clubs actually fly, but bear in mind they're like smaller stadiums. Like there's like soccer stadiums. They do not go to like an 80,000 stadium filled up. It's not like a game in I don't know, like in Istanbul or something like that. I mean, even in like the bigger teams, I know like certain teams get like a lot of draw. Like I've seen like Atlanta games and stuff like that, where it's like, oh,
Nashville
no,
is
it's like
pretty.
packed in there. Yeah, there are
Nashville.
certain teams that do get it, but here's the thing: there are certain teams. I mean, this 696 is not really um, like an average. This was obviously the lowest of lows, so we're making an example of it that are playing. I was looking at it yesterday after in between the two Champions League games. I took a peek at one of the teams, the one that Ronaldo and Mane are on.
Al Nasir, I think.
Is that what it is?
Al
Whatever.
Nasir, I think.
Is
Yeah.
that this? Yeah, unless because yes, it's the I remember their jerseys now, and there was a lot of fans. That stadium was pretty full. I don't know how big this stadium was. It didn't look big. It looked like 25-30,000, similar to like a soccer stadium here, and it was full. So this is like the exception to the rule. But going back to the Mo thing, I feel like you want to cash in while the potential is there. Because let's face it, if the Saudi market is not there, aside from PSG, I don't know who's gonna come in and give you that much money for Mo. He's gonna kind of blow up in your hand in 2 years. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, we're stuck with Mo. But, as he ages, obviously performance is going to go down. When you have like 150, 200 million asset now, you don't want that to be like 20 million in 2 years.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's essentially the business side of it and the
crushing your hopes first thing
right,
in the morning.
right. When you were going about assets and wanting to cash in, I just like sunk, and I was like, are we looking at this from a business perspective, or are we looking at it from a sentimental perspective? Like, I get that there has to be a balance, right? And as much as we want Salah to stay, logically, right, from a logical perspective, it would make sense to like. I see Gally posting here that he thinks it happens next summer, and would you completely be against it? Probably not, especially if we get some if we get something like in upwards of like 150, 200, right? We can work with that. The question of his production is a completely different thing, is a completely different conversation to have. But yeah, it's basically strike while the iron's hot, while this league is still a thing. If it continues growing, if they probably get Salah, they're probably going to be growing to the levels of certain European leagues. And, your point about them probably getting into the Champions League at some point might actually be possible. You'll never know. Money talks. UEFA isn't exactly... if I continue...
Yeah, but here's what... That was my thing. Like, they could have done this all along. I mean, Qatar didn't have to get players to their league to be able to host a World Cup. You just do what you're going to do and... like grease the right wheels.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and like Sir Z says, and that's the thing. Once you host the World Cup, I don't care what the World Cup is. I mean, because you are drawing crowds, people are going to go to it, and despite everything that was said against them, boycotting it, blah blah blah, it's the World Cup. I mean, we freaking watched it. I know some people kind of said they didn't watch it, or let's face it, we had so many people initially saying, "I'm not going to watch it. Mark my words," and then. During the tournament, they were commenting about games. So you're like, well, that changed fast. I mean, because sadly, it's like crack. We're like addicts, If they're playing a World Cup over there, there's no, you're going to be twitching over here. If you're not watching it, you're going to go and looking at it. But yeah, Chris said not watching, but had lots of opinions. I mean, we all had like people like that, like on our like social media streams and stuff like that, who were all talk. And it's easy to say, I'm not going to watch. 2 months before it starts, and then you're like, who's playing tomorrow? Damn it. Like, and then you just like turn it on.
It was kind of like me when the NBA was in the Disney World. I don't know if you saw that. They were in Disney World essentially playing in an open gym. I was like, this isn't basketball. Like, there's no crowd, there's no nothing. I'm not gonna watch this shit. 5 minutes later, I'm like tuning into the first game. Like, yeah, it's not happening, boys. Yeah, we're watching this shit. I don't care. There's no other. There's nothing on. Like, I'll watch it.
Well, I mean, like I say, I always go back to we literally watched Trent play other people FIFA and shit because we were not able to watch soccer. So
Right.
like people were like, just like how many people tuned in to watch that? So it is going to be happening. Matthew says bubble basketball was the best
Okay.
basketball
Okay.
of the last
Let's
5 years.
not go with it.
Let's go with that because actually Lakers won, so I was all over that. Sparky says, "Afternoon, guys. Last Wednesday in UK. Yes, get your butt over here so you can wake up in the crack of dawn with us and not brag that it's afternoon over there when it's a 6:30 game. So yes, we'll be look out for Sparky in your area. So obviously the biggest news today coming out, if I can find it over here, is the one on Everton. I don't even know. I don't know. It's to me when I first heard it, and I actually like Alan sent it to me this morning as well. Sparky says D-backs, Diamondbacks in World Series.
Yeah.
Sparky, you know better than to put a baseball comments and baseball news on the show. Because yeah, maybe when Galley's around, but we squeak in some baseball news when Galley's around. But apart from that, we avoided like the plague. So this whole Everton thing. I don't know. It sounds like more sensational news than actual news because it's a max of 12 points. And it's like if they're found guilty, there's a lot of like ifs and possibilities and stuff like that. Where are you at with it? Obviously, I mean, forget 12 points. I'll show you the standings in a little bit over here. You can knock 3 points off of them and it will be very, very damaging.
Yeah. We don't know anything yet. We don't know if there's any grounds for it, if it's close to happening or whatever. So it, like you said, it's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. But the first thing that came to mind when I saw this, there's a certain team that wears blue as well that has around 115 charges. I don't know who that team is, right? I don't know. Might have won the Premier League the last few years, might have won the Champions League last year, I think. But, I don't know who that team is. So, listen, if Everton is being put on the magnifying glass like this, where's that other team? Like, listen, maybe Everton might have, and I saw Carragher post this. They might be guilty for this. They might not. But look at this. I believe this is just one case, right? This is just one case of breaching financial rules, and that's a 12-point deduction at maximum. Certain team had 115 charges.
So, but here's the difference, though. There's no like shakes. There's no like envelopes of money. People visiting embassies. Nobody is running out to an embassy to be like, "Hey, how are we gonna cover this up?" kind of a thing. So is everything gonna get caught in the crossfire? Because you can say, "How about those guys?" all day, but it's not gonna save you.
Oh yeah, it's not. It's not. I'm just saying. It's because.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah, it's because Everton. Like I'm not. I don't have the connection to Everton, like let's say Kazi or someone from Liverpool would have, but I wouldn't mind if they got relegated, but then a certain team has been a thorn on our side over the last few years is why I'm super particular on them, right? But in terms from an Everton perspective, you're right. It's definitely disastrous if they get convicted.
Yeah.
1 point, a 1.2 point deduction is going to be catastrophic, let alone a 12.
Honestly, if it's 12 points, they might as well pack it up.
Yeah, pack it up. Sell Pickford, sell Calvert-Lewin. You got to be ready for that. For that hit that you're going to take financially, if if it ever pushes through. So, listen. Obviously, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of nothing at this point, but it's obviously interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks, if anything's going to happen.
It's a maximum of 12 points, so it's more sounds like Premier League saying like, get him, like if that's the punishments and like give it like, you're always going to ask for, you ask for life so that you get 30 years or something like that is what it like comes across to me as. But the way they're at right now, I mean, doesn't matter how many points they get deducted. It would be very, very damaging. I mean, you look at like the point standing right now. Let's throw that on the screen. They looked worse, mind you. So at least they have some check marks there. Whereas, I mean, the only thing going for Everton right now is the fact that there's somebody worse off than you are, kind of a thing. And you look at like Sheffield's, mind you, Luton's only check over there is the Everton game. But you look at like all those other teams in there, like there's a lot of crap, so you don't look as bad. But if you're deducted, dude, even if it was 5 points, I don't know if it's going to be saying this. Sparky should be the one who's giving us more reporting on this. Yes, their chairman as well, by the way. That
Rest
was
in
like,
peace.
and that's the thing. Like when I looked for this, kind of got like caught underneath. And Kigali says like, yeah, it might be 3 teams worse. That is crazy. I mean, you look at those standings, like you say, it is really crazy. I just don't know any kind of punishments, even if it was like you take away 5 points right now. Let's say they go, we'll go easy on 12. Come on, guys, and it's only one thing or whatever. Even if they like 3 points, that drags them down there, and
Yeah.
it's like a swamp in there, man. Like it's just like, so bad
Imagine,
out there that you could
imagine
go
though. Imagine they get the deduction and they still don't get relegated. Oh, they're never gonna get relegated anymore.
It would be like your 49ers curse. Stop watching the 49ers every
Right.
time you watch it. Mind you, I was recording it because it was starting doing like the Monday night podcast. So the moment the podcast was over, I told Gally and Bickler, hey, don't nobody say shit about the game because I'm like recording it. I'm going to go down and watch it. And then, yeah, that was like a painful watch. If I knew you were watching, I wouldn't even have invested
Oh,
time
don't
in it.
worry, I'm
Knowing
not
we're
tuning
going
in
to
the next
lose.
one. I'm not.
So other news is Gakpo is in full training. He's available for tomorrow per club. Do you think, do we see him tomorrow? Do we see him like maybe like 20 minutes at the end? Or does he get a shot? Or is it too early to see him in the starting 11 right now?
Oh, he's not going to be in the starting 11 for sure. I think we see him maybe like 10 minutes. Like let's say if we're 2-3-1 up, we see him for like 10 minutes. But I think Nunez starts tomorrow. But yeah, definitely on the bench, as Chris said, and it'd be great to see him back. As much as I've liked Nunez and maybe Jota starting last weekend. So yeah, I think we see him for like 10 minutes.
Speaking of Chris, he says some wanker reporter and he's in Facebook jail. If you don't, I mean, for you those who don't know, Chris is the man behind a lot of our high quality video intros and outros and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
he
that
does a
shit's
lot for us
fire.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's that Irish Post, but I'm not sure because I'll find out more in terms of what went down. Hey, look who's back in action. Chris says, what if they get relegated anyway? Then the point deduction happens next season and they go down again. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I think some teams, when they get relegated, I mean, some of them by habit, like Norwich and stuff like that, but some teams you can be like, hey, they're going to bounce right back. If something like that happens to Everton, I just don't have that confidence, to be honest with you, of them bouncing right back because they will lose even further players from a already, I would consider, weak and below average squad. And I mean, forget the point deduction and stuff like that. Like Gally says, like Leicester, when Leicester went down, despite losing players, you were like, these guys are going to be back.
Yeah.
Is like, you could kind of say it in confidence, and you would probably put money on at the beginning of the season that, hey, they're going to be back. Chris says they will probably end up like Sunderland. Yeah. So let me ask you, no points deduction, all things being equal, if Everton goes down, would you consider them a team like Leicester that's going to bounce right back up? Or would you count like, man, you might never see them again?
I think they have a great chance because there's this thing that relegated teams get called parachute payments that gives them a huge edge over, like, let's say a team like Middlesbrough or whoever who've been in the championship for quite a long time. So they definitely have 3 years to get it done, and I think that because I believe the parachute payments span 3 years, but in each of those years they decrease in amount, but it's still a leg up over, let's say, the regular championship opposition who don't get relegated right away. So I'd fancy them to make that jump in that 3 year span. What they don't want to do is go past that 3 year span. That's when I'll get worried. I think they'd be stuck there. If they, in 3 years since they get relegated, they don't go back up, that's when I'll get worried. But in terms of like them going back immediately, I'd say the next season immediately, or maybe the season after at the latest. I think they would. Too big.
I almost feel like you either come back right away, or like I know what you mean with the 3 years,
right,
like in terms of the payments. But to me, it's like first year or bust in terms of first year or you go into the battle like you're in with everybody else. First year, yes, you have a slight edge maybe, but otherwise you do not.
Alan
So
makes a great point here as well. Dice would be in his element in the championship. He'd
would Dice
probably
still be there if they got relegated?
true. That is
Would
true.
they? Would they?
I think there's a chance, but then there's probably he'd probably try and take another job as well to keep a Premier League team stable as well. It wouldn't. Would you put it past him? Absolutely not. Right? Like in terms of the clubs that have been promoted over the last few years, there have been quite a few very progressive managers. Like let's say Company, right, for Burnley, who played really expansive football. Right? So I don't know, man. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, Kelly says I'd be worried as well for Kazi's health if they spent 3 years in championship. Honestly, I would be worried that he would not get anything done because he'd be laughing like nonstop for like 3 years
Right.
straight. Or he'd be spending it like making fun of his Everton friends. So he would not get anything done. Sergi says Lampard will take over.
I read a
They'll
really
just take like tag team. It's Lampard douche.
I read a really good post on Twitter the other day where he made a good point about Everton being relegated. Like from a strategic standpoint, it makes sense for us Liverpool fans because right now you'd consider Everton for let's say around the bottom tier of the Premier League table, around around the 15 to 20 range, right? That's where you'd probably put them. And in all those teams in that bracket, there is only one team that you would say, like, for example, all those other teams, you'd expect Liverpool to get 6 points out of every season. But Everton, you wouldn't give Liverpool like an absolute chance of getting 6 points off of them every year in comparison to the people that are right next to them. So,
Are
if,
you
for
saying
example,
because it's like a derby game kind of thing?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
we have like had their number.
to an extent, but then we've also had instances where we needed a critical result against them, like that year where we lost the league to City by 1 point. The one where we won, 18-19, I believe. We drew against them 0-0, right? So they
Mhm.
still have some instances where they can turn it up against us. And kind of like how Kazi made the points last time before the derby. They it's not a game where no matter how strong Liverpool is, how weak Everton is, where you could just say that it's a Liverpool
Yeah.
win right away. That's why when myself and Anan made such positive predictions, he was like, ugh, right, like because he couldn't be
That's more
supremely
like his
positive.
nerves kicking in than anything else. I mean, okay, so let's look at. I mean, when you look, see, I think that was the case. I think like they've been able to squeeze some draws out of us, but man, like I'm looking at like 11v11 now in terms of like our history. They've only beaten us once, and that was I think the COVID. Was it COVID or was it like when we were playing? What you want to call it?
We were playing
Fab and
Henderson and
Hendo as center
yeah,
back era.
yeah, yeah.
2-0 is one game that they beaten us in February 20th, 21. You were probably watching live, and that's why I blame you. But aside from that, I mean, it's nothing but like losses and a few draws scattered in there. In 2020, they squeezed like 2 draws out of us and stuff. But it has been, I know what you mean in
Yeah.
terms of like a derby kind of like making things becoming maybe like making it more of an equalizer in terms of like the players' minds and attitude and stuff like that. Yeah, Chris says that was the Van Dijk, so it was the season with Fab and Hendo at center back. But it has not been as much because I feel like I think we were talking about this in the pre-match or the post-match. It feels like the gap between the clubs is so big. I mean, you look at that game this weekend, and I know what you mean because it was still a tough win, and we couldn't finally score. But that's like if you play against Burnley's Sean Douche or Sean Douche's Burnley, we still have the same struggles when a team just parks in the back over there and puts 10 players in the box. It wasn't necessarily because of Everton, but you look at like the squads, you look at the bench, you look at the manager, you compare those two. It's not like the older days where they were closer. I mean, I remember you're not old enough to remember. I remember days where they were a lot closer. It feels like they're so way off now.
Yeah, it does, but there's this like let's say Bournemouth, right? You'd expect Liverpool to take 6 points off of them right away, right? But Everton, I don't know. I feel like there's still that chance that they can come in and mess shit up. So it might be better for us if they were relegated from a strategic standpoint. But I get what you're saying. The gap just really looks bigger and bigger and bigger, and we naturally just look at things on paper. It's to start things. Like, we only know about all these complications when the actual match comes in. But like, hey, what do I know? I just feel like, as hilarious as it would be for Everton to get relegated, I do get the Scouser standpoint, where in terms of like the economy of the city and all that, it wouldn't be good for it. So just trying to look at it from that perspective too.
Just as they're getting a new stadium, it's going to solve all their problems. And that's the thing. It's not like they haven't spent money. It's just the money is so poorly spent. But at the time, at least they were getting some players in who could maybe cause trouble, like you're saying, and like make something happen, had the potential to create something out of nothing. But you look at it this weekend, I just don't even see that in their squad anymore, because obviously they had not been able to spend the money because of this. I do agree with Gally, though. For one, yes, if they're still, because they would try to do the new manager smell kind of thing, you would think, towards the end of the season to get some, because I mean, the way it is right now, if they're in the relegation battle, if you bring in, anybody, Big Sam or somebody like that, who's going to get you 2 points, it can go a long way. We just looked at the standings. Even a couple of points would go a long way. So they might go after, they're bringing a new manager. The new manager smell will buy us 5 points, and then, we won't get relegated, kind of a deal. But yeah, I think they are clickbait in the sense that, they're like 12 points because, they asked for a max. Like I said, they always ask for a max. It's almost like looking at the prosecutor's case and kind of like writing it as news. But hey, we bid on it. We've been talking about it because I think the possibility, like I said, even the possibility of being 3 points is a minor, like what normally would be considered a slap on the wrist. If somebody is going up for 12 and they only get 3 points or something like that, that would be damaging enough. Bringing a manager like Douche was basically resigning yourself to the relegation battle. And that's the thing. I think they hoped that they don't have a lot of players. Yeah, I mean, what do you put behind like the Sean Dyche decision? It kind of makes it a perfect combo for me, because I enjoy Everton misery, and combined with Sean Douche misery, that's like a double bonus for me. But right guy, wrong guy, what do you make out of it?
Well, I'm kind of biased because I don't like negative managers. So definitely it's it's the wrong decision for me. He has the players to work with. Granted, he brought some of his guys from Burnley over, right? Like Tarkovsky and all that. And but like no. Especially since the ambition, Everton's ultimate goal, as much as Blue fans would hate to admit it, is to reach the levels of Liverpool, right? To compete against us toe for toe, stride for stride, player for player. And, this isn't the way. They have some good players there. Like Doucouré is pretty decent. So is I like Calvert-Lewin. I think he's a really solid striker, provided he can stay healthy. But
yeah, when he's like the Thiago of strikers.
Yeah. I mean, you saw like in the game last weekend, he was giving VVD something to worry about before they went down to 10 men. So like they have something there, but in terms of like the manager to take them forward, I don't think it's Dyche, especially since they definitely want to be more than like a team who has to look behind their shoulders every season, for relegation. So obviously not. It's a no for me.
I mean, Gallon says, I hate to douche. Like, I'm going to make this viral. Everybody should call him douche. I hate to douche, but I think he gets too much up there. But I think he does, because let's face it, they did not get really anybody in, and he's trying to bring sexy Burnley back over there, like the Burnley side.
Let me just say, they fluffed up having Rafa massively. Like, I know they were on a downward spiral towards the end of his reign, but there were injuries in that team, and the fans didn't really give him a chance. That is an absolute. I'm biased towards Rafa because he's the manager of Liverpool when I started supporting, but come on, like, you give him a chance. He lasted half a season there, and he was building something in that team, and y'all didn't give him a chance. He got Lampard. Look what happened, right? So
the whole Lampard thing was just stupid, I thought. I mean, that's the thing. They've done some like really, really poor decisions in recruitments, in manager. I actually thought, despite hating him, I really thought he would Shandish would come in, and because of his like defensive mindsets, and he can get a team to defend, he can keep them disciplined and stuff. I figured they would, squeak in some draws, get some points that way, and that would, keep them up, is like the thing. And I think that's what they were counting on. And I think they were thinking, hey, another full year with him. Now he's got but it's not, he can't really add quality to the squad because of these like, restrictions. So it's not really, like helping his cause either. Not that I don't think he would play any positive, but he might have gotten more guys who are more defensive and fit his, like style or something like that. Maybe for like proper countering. I mean, they got like Mape for freaking striker, for God's sakes. I mean, it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Rafa was a train wreck. But I think, here's the thing. At least he had some players to go with more what he wanted to do, but they were all injured. So, and then we know, if Rafa can't attack and do things, it is a train wreck. Sergi said it was brilliant for Everton and my happiness.
The thing is, Rafa was a train wreck. But if Rafa was a train wreck, what was Lampard, right?
Oh yeah, Lampard. That was like another pure joy. I really wanted to see Lampard get relegated as well, because that would be a double bonus. But yeah, I mean, like I say, they brought some people thinking. I get the new manager smell thing to keep you, but you got to also think about the year after and say, hey, once this guy saves us, though, do we want to keep him around? And I think they've done that wrong twice now. And, it's going to be, I feel like even if they don't get relegated, at the end of the year, it's going to be the same thing. I was actually more shocked that Shandai went after that, because probably was better suited for a team coming up or something like that than that. But yeah, I don't know what will come out of this. I really think at the end of the day, if City can get away with like 800 violations, I think Everton will be like, oh yes, we'll do this and stuff like that.
The
and they
thing
might
is,
not get anything. But
the thing is, I have a question for you, Tim. If it pushes through, Everton does get the deduction. Does this renew any sort of interest with the City case, do you think? Or does it stay the same? Because like Everton, we make fun of them, but they are a high-profile club. They are still one of the more well-known Premier League clubs, especially outside the top six. If they get slapped with this, right, it would be all over the news. So certain teams who have been slapped for more charges are going to get talked about more, right? So do you think that affects it at all, if anything?
I personally don't think so, but that's like the cynic in me kicking in. I don't think so, because what they've gotten away with, they'll get away with, and they keep getting away with it. And nothing, if they come like 2 years later and be like, oh yeah, we're stripping them, doesn't matter. We get still our disappointments at the last day of the season and stuff like that stuck with us and scarring us for life. So it's not like that's going to, go away and we're going to relive those days. So as long as they keep getting away with it, I think they just keep going away with it, because they have a lot of money behind that can, like Sergi was talking about, getting the lawyers. And let's face it, it's not just money, it's the power of who owns the club and political relations over there. Right. So that's why you go to an embassy with the paperwork, instead of, like, there's no, like, I guarantee you they're not handling it as carefully with Everton as they are with City, because there's like a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't want to expose just because of who owns the club. So Chris says, careful boys, Gerrard was 3 times worse at Villa. I mean, here's the thing, a great player does not make a great manager, and I think we see this in all sports, because I think sometimes it translates, but in most cases I would argue that it does not. And you look at a lot of the good managers, and most of them are not like really, they were not as great of players, as maybe like half at best, because I think sometimes somebody who's really good is kind of hard to manage, because you had a ridiculous drive to be as good as you are, and it's hard to teach and like coach that drive, and it gets probably really frustrating for a guy like Gerrard, or like a guy like even like Lampard and stuff like that. When they see people in midfield doing things, you're like, what the fuck you doing? It's just like, but you can't pass it on. You don't know how to pass it on. It just came natural to you, perhaps, and it was your natural drive. So I think it gets trick here. Leo's with us. Good morning, Leo. Yeah, what do you make of that? So if you go went with the manager, because I know back in the day there was a huge argument. That argument has disappeared, thank God. In terms of like when Klopp leaves, is it going to be? Should it be Pep or should it be Gerrard? And there were a lot of people, mostly probably for sentimental reasons, saying Gerrard. And he was like, "Oh, he's doing what? Look at what he's doing over there in Scotland," kind of thing. And I would think nobody's saying that now.
Yeah, for sure. No, no, we're not saying Gerrard, but now we're saying Shabby, right? Granted, Shabby's doing well in Germany, right? I'll give that caveat. But again, trying not to get hooked into the whole sentimentality of a great player who served us well, trying to manage us. Yeah, as much as I think Shabby's a decent manager, I'm not getting roped into that yet. In terms of Stevie, like we talked about it before, he probably went back to Saudi to kind of earn his stripes back, didn't he? Like, so maybe he could say that he did a good job. Or
maybe not. Only 700 people are watching.
Right, only 700. Like,
doesn't get out.
I managed to get my team to play well in front of 696 people. Who else is gonna do that? Is gonna be on his resume, right? So, like, I don't know, man. Like, in terms of Stevie, I think that ship has sailed. He clearly wasn't ready for the Aston Villa job. Like, he had some moments, but then you don't know if he was really that good, or was that just the new manager bounce, right? We talked with the Aston Villa guy, I forget his name, right? He said that injuries might have played a part, right? Injuries might have played a part, but there was a disconnect with the squad and the dressing room. So, and it clearly showed, and it just shows you with a proper manager. I believe it was Gally who said it, right? Like Unai Emery, you could see that Villa have loads and loads of potential right now. You could even argue they have a chance. They're probably Champions League hopefuls at this point, which they were not under Stevie. Like, I don't know. It might be me being bitter with Stevie for not getting the job done on that last day with Villa, right? Like 2-0 up. Come on, Stevie. Like, I'm sorry, I'm bringing back memories here, but whenever you bring up Stevie and Gerrard, Stevie and Aston Villa, that's the memory that comes up there. But yeah, I think Stevie's right. It is right where he is right now in Saudi Arabia, trying to earn his stripes.
I don't know if that was a place to earn stripes, though. I think Gal was saying earlier in the comments, like, I would have rather had them see him in like in another league or in the championship and stuff like that. But I think the case becomes a lot harder, where this is like, I mean, even if his team did ridiculously well in Saudi, is a team like Bournemouth going to be like, yeah, we should get Gerrard over here? Because everybody's going to look at the Villa experiment, I think. And here's another thing. I think coming to the Premier League, you do have that challenge of, even when you have succeeded in a lesser league, you're now coaching players who are going to look at you and maybe like say like, okay, what do you have? Are they going to want to, yes. Chris is gonna very strictly says, I don't want Stevie anywhere near. I don't think he will be, at least, especially now. I don't think he was going to be even before. Chris, by the way, has a good suggestion. The guy who's gonna save Everton, he says, is Lee Carsley. The only problem with that is I see that as a good name if they drop the championship, but not in the Premier League, because I feel like when you get these guys in the Premier League, you get a lot from the players in terms of stand back and be like, like, so what are you going to do differently, kind of a thing. So a lot of egos to manage in the Premier League.
I'll throw a name out there for Everton, Graham Potter.
Where is he at now? Where are they now? Where is Graham Potter right now?
I don't think he's managing a team.
Hold on. Now I'm going to have to look. Is he managing anyone? Nothing right now. So we last saw him in Chelsea. I mean, he's basically waiting for a rebound. Here's the thing, though. Like, that will be some change, right? Going from
Dyche to Potter.
To Potter.
Right.
That's like a heart attack, right? I mean, it's just like from 0 to 100 in like 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, the thing is, that would be interesting. Right. The thing is, like, I feel like I said a while ago, Everton want to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool. And how are you going to do that? By playing some positive football. Like, as much as Potter got a lot of stick with Chelsea, you know, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you give him a fresh start, granted, this is with all managers, right? Give him a clean slate, let him get the players he wants. He might be able to work with that team. I don't know.
But I don't think he can get the play. I don't even think Sean Dyche could get the players he wanted because of the money.
Right. Well, we don't know Yeah, we don't know the politics of it all, so obviously we're just working on hypotheticals here. But I don't know, just throwing that name out there. I feel like
No, I think it's a great name.
yeah.
But then here's another thing. Like, if you're Potter, like Gallies has him in line to take over Ten Hag. Cersei says the same. I mean, yeah, if you're Potter, you're just waiting over there for rebounds.
Yes.
Like a lot of NFL and NBA coaches do, right? They're like, you know what? I'll take the first 3 months off, and then just once somebody's in the shitter, I'll just come in and take over, kind of a thing.
Right.
And then this way, I don't have to do training camp and stuff. I mean, if you're Potter and you're waiting for opportunities, you're waiting for a rebound, you see Everton come off and you just see it bouncing away. You're like, you know what? I'll wait for the next. You guys take that one. I'll wait for the next train to come by, because there are going to be a lot better offers for him.
Do you think that Potter is kind of wary on rebounds though? Because Chelsea was a rebound job. Look how that happened. Look what
Chelsea
happened.
Was like a big step up. I mean, in terms of from going from Brighton. I felt, yeah. I mean, let's face it, he was kind of set to fail there, and
right.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know, because it's Chelsea. I don't know if we found this out, that he's better suited for a team like Brighton as opposed to a team like Chelsea, Arsenal, and stuff like that. I mean, we don't know that yet, because Chelsea is a mess. So it was like, eating and, chewing and spitting at managers left and right. So I don't know if that's fair on Potter to say, hey, maybe you're not ready for that level, kind of thing. But I think we know what he can do with smaller expectations and getting more out of average players or mid-level players, kind of stuff. So I think that's a great recommendation. I just don't think Potter is probably telling you to shut up. Don't even mention my name with him. I don't want to be involved, kind of a thing. But
right.
Let's get to tomorrow real quick, because I know I will be here for the pre-match. We'll go right after the lineup comes out, which should be really interesting to see. These Thursday games are usually Alan says, me with Ted. First of all, I work alone. Alan, so I'm not going to be getting another person with me, and I would wait for the next rebound. I'll be next to Potter saying yeah, you guys take that. I'll wait for the next one over here. What kind of a starting 11 are you waiting for tomorrow?
Yeah, it is tricky. But I did mention that I think Nunez starts. Definitely, he didn't start.
Does your boy start?
Gravenberch. That's a good question. I think
you're putting him on any random starting 11.
Right. I probably put him in every starting 11 for the rest
line, starting 11 at the lunch buffet, starting 11 on a Thursday.
Yeah, I think Elliott's probably going to start over him. So I think the midfield is going to be Endo, Elliott, and Jones. Because Jones is still serving his ban, right?
But he can play Thursday, so why not? I agree. I think that's my midfield as well.
Right.
I think the front three. Well, let's go to the back four, especially the backs. What do you have over there?
Ooh, I think we play the kid at left back, Chambers, right?
Isn't he hurt still? I thought he was still hurt.
Oh, he's hurt.
He was. I know last Thursday came up, and with Megan away, being in Liverpool, we don't have anybody really monitoring and reporting from the training grounds. So I don't know if he's been practicing or not.
So does that mean we put Tsimikas in there again? Right? If that's the case, then definitely Costas, right? Kwanzaa, Matip, and Gomez, and Keller. Right wing, is Doak healthy? Again, without Megan.
No, Doak is hurt.
Doak is hurt, right. Yeah. Right wing is a good question. So Nunez starts central. I have Jota on the left wing. Right wing is a good question. Who are we going to start there? I'm not going to risk Mo, that's for sure.
I think Mo's starting.
You think it's if ever he starts, it crossed my mind. If ever he starts, is it like last time where it's a 45 minutes kind of deal?
It's pretty determined, dude. You got 45 minutes or you got 60 minutes or whatever, something along those lines. I think pretty much these Thursday games are always going to be like that. Chris says Gomez, Matip, Kwanzaa, Costas. I really don't think I see.
I didn't see the post match last weekend. What did you think about Costas, Tim? Because I know you're on his ass. So
don't be throwing this shit out there making me the bad guy. I'm nothing good or nothing bad. I thought it was just average. I didn't see anything that said There
right?
you go. The run of games really is going to help him, and I didn't see anything saying like, "Oh, we're going to
Because
step him
I
so
was
much."
watching on the small screen, and whenever Costas got the ball, I just thought of you, and I was like, "Geez, this guy better do it right, or else,
We're going to
or
be hearing about this shit.
right, we're gonna be
No,
hearing
actually, there is a great piece that we just put out
right."
yesterday from Harry. So if you go ahead out to our YouTube channel, and while you're there, you should be subscribing. But definitely check out that video because he did really explain very well on the tactics board in terms of how we kind of adjusted, and we might see that moving forward in terms of like how to I'm going to get to Chris's comments. You know what? You guys are throwing this stuff out there, like right at the end of the show, throwing this stuff at me. But yeah, I think head on over. It's a 10-minute video, but it's really in depth and really explains well, I think, how we used Costas to maybe make him more successful and look better than if he played the regular Robertson role. Because I don't think it suits him even less. Let's put it that way. So Surround Sound says. The classic Turkish. Okay, first off, I that crap is made up. Second off, no, I mean I was a big fan of him. I thought actually he had even a better delivery, and he was good in set pieces on Saturday. Like he has a better delivery in some ways from the left. I think he has like a beautiful like curving cross. But I mean, the last 6 months we've seen him. I mean, he has the strength of. I mean, I keep saying it like he has the strength of like a 12-year-old out there sometimes. Like he just like falls over all over the place, hoping for a foul. Or I think it's almost like sometimes it feels like he's trying to get that set piece on that left side so he can show his set piece skills. But I mean, he gets shouldered off the ball and stuff like that. And I think, to be fair, and yeah, if you go back to Harry's piece and watch that, I think that really helped him a lot. Because if we feel like Robertson is not well suited for that role with Trent being tucked in, Costas is even less,
Right.
especially like strength wise and speed wise. So I think it would just like made it a lot better. He's just a Greek. I don't even know if he has Moreno's speed, though, to be honest with you. Moreno had that speed and he had that shot. He did not have the cross, but he had the shots and he had the speed. I think his delivery is a lot better than Moreno on the left wing. But I keep saying this. There was a short on it. Put Trent back, put everybody back there where it should go, and I think everybody will be a lot better. Let's abandon this experiment for good. But front three. Let's go back to front three. I don't think Costas is starting tomorrow, by the way.
Who do you have?
Gally was talking about this. I think Scanlon. I mean, I'll take any young kids, anybody really at the left, because I think like Gally was the one who initially brought it up, and we talked a little bit about it on the Monday night podcast that you do not want to risk an injury playing a guy who has the strength of a 12-year-old for extended minutes, who's not used to playing those extended minutes, have like a stupid muscle injury middle of like a stupid Thursday game that you don't necessarily need, and then now you have no left back and you do have to play Gomez there all the time, which your boy Joey G did pretty darn good. I was pretty happy with how he played, really. But Gally has Mo, Jota, and Nunez up top. Who do you have?
I'm just worried. Yeah, we were talking about like sudden injuries. Like I know Mo takes care of himself really well, right? He's never injured, but then I have this really bad feeling. Remember when Jota played a meaningless game in that Champions League a few years ago?
Who was that?
Yeah. I just
can't remember the name. Midlothian? I can't remember.
Right. I get flashbacks to that shit in terms of like these Europa League games. So as I think he'd go Mo for 45 minutes. I'm just really worried about it. But another option, I believe it was Alan who posted it. Cade Gordon, a name that we haven't heard for a long time.
Yes.
I don't know about it. Like, because I don't know about the possibility of him.
Well, he can get the second 45.
Right. He can probably get the second 45 or the first 45. Mo gets the second, whatever. But it would be nice to see him again because I thought he was quite good a few seasons ago. So
that's what I like about these Thursday games. And I know what you mean, but I feel like the reason that we have we put out a squad. We have a depth now. Like before, you did not really have the depth, right? So you started what you had, and unless you fully rotated and put a bunch of kids or really unreliable guys or guys we were not big on, you always had to risk for a couple of your regular starters that you relied on in these games. I feel like now that we have a more deeper squad
Yeah.
of people who can start. I mean, look at this midfield, look at the front line. There's a bunch of guys who, like, we actually have a discussion about who the starting lineup will be.
Yeah.
Before, it was like we really discussed one person. We were like, who's going to be the third here, who's going to be the third there. That was it. So I think regardless of what you do, you are going to use these guys. And honestly, you maybe do to get them game ready in terms of like a guy like Ando and stuff like that. These guys need game time. And I hear for Costas and alongside other people that, they're like, oh, they just need the run of games. Well, here is your run of games. You have Thursdays, and let's face it, aside from international breaks, you play every Thursday. It's almost like playing every weekend for some of these guys.
Yeah, segueing to that point, Tim, because I won't be on the show tomorrow. Is there any player that you're going to be watching in particular tomorrow?
I think I saw spill the beans there. Probably Ando, yeah.
Right,
How about you? So
yeah,
if Gravenberch's not there, because if he is there, I think that's all you watch there. But
did you guys see that long ball he played towards Mo? I was fanning myself after he played that ball. I was like, "Oh, is that Thiago? Like, we don't need Thiago anymore. We just have Gravenberch. He's like 4 midfielders in one. Jeez, man. Like, but anyway, I digress." I was fanboying over. I was absolutely furious when they took him out. Granted, Elliott was good. Yes. I was like, why are you taking our undisputed best midfielder out of the game? Like, but anyway, yeah, for me it's Endo as well, because Endo has been getting a lot of stick lately. So I feel like this is the kind of game where he kind of calms down, gets more of the system, tries to integrate himself a little bit more. It's lesser opposition, so he might have an easier time of it, might have a harder time of it. We don't know. But yeah, it's definitely Endo for me. And of course, Nunez, like we always talk about, confidence player. He has to get like a goal or two.
Yeah, I think Chris has Endo, Gravenberch, Jones with Jota, Nunez, Harvey on top. I don't know if you agree with Gravenberch again. I wouldn't be against it, but yeah, if you're putting Harvey on the right wing, you do have, I think Steven was already earlier saying, or Sergi was saying that, we have to have somebody else in midfield. I think, the thing with Ando is it's unfair because, like, if he goes out there, and I mean, we keep saying, how come he doesn't start? We had a discussion about this on the Monday Night Podcast. Like, why don't we play the guy who's his natural position? Maybe there's something we don't know and we don't see in the training ground. So, but it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like, if he comes out tomorrow and he plays great,
yeah,
we might say, hey, how come he's not playing regularly instead of Mac in his natural spot? Or we might say, well, yeah, because he's playing against Toulouse. If he plays bad tomorrow, we could say, hey, he's not playing. See, this is why he's not starting. We're starting Mac over him. Or we could say, yeah, because he's not starting with Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. He's starting with Harvey and Jones instead. Like, he's playing with, like, unfamiliar players. So I feel like we kind of put him in a tough spot. But playing well and showing his worth, obviously, can only do him good.
Yeah, it's a difficult conundrum, and thankfully we're not the Liverpool manager, right? Because this is such a headache for Klopp.
Well, thank God you're not, because Gravenberch would be in goal, would be in defense.
Yeah, he'd be starting everywhere. Like, we'd win the league. Like, all our players were like, for after all this, I still haven't gotten myself a Gravenberch kit.
What?
No,
what?
Yeah.
We gotta start a GoFundMe.
I'm waiting for his first Premier League goal before I do that, folks. But yeah, with Endo, it's tough. I kind of feel for him because he came in as a replacement for arguably our greatest defensive midfielder in the modern era, in Fabinho, right? And he does not, like, let's be real, folks. He doesn't fit the physical profile for a club defensive midfielder. Like, he has the work rate, yeah, but he doesn't have the length. He doesn't have the height as well. Because when you had someone up against Fabinho, you'd fancy Fabinho to win that duel 9 times out of 10, especially in his prime. Like, not last year where when he turned slower than a truck, but in his prime, right? With Endo, I don't know if he can physically compete. Like, let's say he had a Michael Antonio backing him up, or a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, right? You wouldn't fancy him to win that duel 9 times out of 10. So I think club teams are extremely physical as well as technical. So yeah, if Endo is our long-term solution at the defensive midfield, I don't think that's gonna work. So that's my worry about him. Yeah.
He's 5'10", so he's not too little, but I know what
Right.
you mean. He does not have the heights to win the air balls and stuff. The one thing I like seeing with him when he has played is how quickly he releases the balls that he wins and
Right.
starts an attack. And yeah, Chris says it's going to cost you a lot in lettering to put that.
Yeah,
Maybe
thankfully
get
they
it like
don't.
installments, like Birch first, then put the Gravin on there or something like that. But do what you got to do. But give us a prediction on our way out over here for tomorrow.
Timuchin special.
Timuchin special 3-1. You know what? Because of you jerks, I have to change my special now. But I am
Nah.
one upping my special. I'm going with 4-1, but 3-1 I can go with. It should be a fun game. I feel like it's going to be more of an open game tomorrow, just
Yeah.
because that how usually like French teams play.
I forget. Did you have Nunez starting for you?
Yes, I think
Okay.
Nunez will start. I think he will. It goes back to what you were talking about in terms of like confidence and stuff like that. Because I still feel like, especially if Gakpo will be ready and we're going to see him for like 10, 15 minutes, and we might be able to use Gakpo over the weekend, that kind of like lets you give Gakpo 20 minutes to get ready for the weekend. And then, then you play Nunez 60, 70, whatever, and he comes off the bench again if needed against Forest. So, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, John. Enjoy your Reckless. And you guys should enjoy your Reckless, too. Head on to the website right now and grab your own coffee. Thanks to them for sponsoring us. Thanks to all you guys for commenting, joining us this morning in the conversation. Give us a like and a subscribe. And I say this is the homework for the day. Every day, you go grab a guy by the ear and say, why aren't you subscribed to this channel? And make him subscribe. Tell him American Scouser sent you. But
Unless it's
as
a
always,
United
guys,
fan.
have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow as soon as the lineup comes out for the pre-match. Take care.
Take care, guys.